So the Florida governor has been in the news about when he opposed aid to Sandy. But this article here puts it more in perspective. It says Florida could get billions from legislation DeSantis opposed. Let's see. He was new to Congress and eager to establish himself as a budget hawk. Ron DeSantis saw the perfect opportunity on January 4th, 2013. One day after taking office, the Republican congressman voted against a bill to help homeowners recover from Superstorm Sandy, calling the measure fiscally irresponsible. The legislation passed anyway, and it now stands to help Florida and DeSantis, the state's governor, by providing billions of dollars to help rebuild homes that were damaged last week by Hurricane Ian. But the criticism that has been directed at DeSantis by Democrats, who accuse him of hypocrisy for seeking federal help after Ian, misses the point of his 2013 vote. So let's see what that is. It wasn't actually about disaster aid. It was on flood insurance. If DeSantis had prevailed 9 years ago, Florida residents today might be unable to collect flood insurance claims worth several $1 billion. The bill, H.R. 41, was as short as it was simple. Covering just 109 words, the measure aimed to guarantee that people who had flood insurance through the federal government could collect their claims. The legislation accomplished this with one sentence that increased the amount of money that the federal flood insurance could borrow from federal taxpayers. The borrowing limit jumped to $30.4 billion from $20.8 million. So that's like a difference about $9.6 billion, close to $10 billion. That's what DeSantis opposed, raising the debt limit. See, right there. Jumped from 30 to $30.4 billion from $20.8 billion. And he was saying, wait a minute, this is too much money. The increase was needed because Superstorm Sandy, one of the most destructive natural disasters in U.S. history, threatened to bankrupt the National Flood Insurance Program by draining its reserves and exhausting its capacity to borrow from the U.S. Treasury. The NFIP, run by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, provides most of the nation's flood insurance, and today covers about 1.6 million properties in Florida. The program frequently borrows from taxpayers after major floods generate claims that exceed the reserves it accumulates from insurance premiums. You can't pay what you don't have. Craig Fugate, FEMA administrator from 2009 to 2017, said in an interview Monday. DeSantis was one of 67 House Republicans who opposed the so-called debt ceiling increase. DeSantis said at the time that increasing the flood program's borrowing authority with no plan to offset the spending with cuts elsewhere is not fiscally responsible, according to news reports. If a family maxes out its credit cards and faces the need for new spending, it is forced to prioritize by reducing the spending in other areas, DeSantis said in a statement at the time. The increase in the flood program's debt ceiling helped it borrow enough money to pay 145,000 insurance claims, worth nearly $9 billion arising from Superstorm Sandy, FEMA records show. Most claims were on properties in New York and New Jersey. The increase also helped the flood programs pay 92,000 insurance claims worth $9 billion after Hurricane Harvey caused massive flooding in southeastern Texas in 2017. Hurricane Maria, which demolished Puerto Rico in 2017, generated only $41 million in flood claims because so few residents there have federal coverage. Today, the debt ceiling increase will likely help the National Flood Insurance Program pay tens of thousands of claims after Hurricane Ian damaged Florida, South Carolina, and North Carolina. Here's why. The flood program has used $20.5 billion of its borrowing capacity of $30.4 billion. That means it can borrow $9.9 billion. Now add the money it has on reserve, $7.9 billion, and the flood program can pay up to $17.8 billion in flood claims, according to FEMA's latest quarterly report on NFIP finances. That's not nearly enough to pay a worst-case scenario of $45 billion in losses in a single year, according to the FEMA report. Despite these resources, the NFIP remains at risk of insolvency, the FEMA report states. But if Congress had not raised the borrowing authority in 2013 and left the debt ceiling at $20.8 billion as DeSantis wanted, the flood program would be able to borrow only $300 million a day. That would mean a claims paying capacity of just $8.2 billion. And see, so this goes on here. So the main point is that DeSantis didn't want to raise the debt, the amount of money that FEMA can borrow to pay. And look at that. His own state, they're going to be doing a lot of, they're going to have a lot of claims shortly.